Today, I have with me Eric Lee Usher. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for being here. So you guys, to get your notepads out, get whatever you need to pay attention, because we have someone who is a businessman, an entrepreneur, an author.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited because I know we're about to get into it.
Oh, we're gonna do it.
You're being real cool right now.
Oh, we're gonna jump in. We're gonna jump in. We're gonna jump in.
We are going to jump in. So tell us a little about yourself. Let's start there.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me say this. Have you heard of Hooked on Phonics?
Yes.
Okay, so I always say my origin story is really hooked on phonics.
Okay.
That's actually how I became a businessman. Hating Hooked on Phonics is how I became a businessman.
Okay, that's
And
interesting.
It's very interesting,
Tell me
right?
more. Yeah.
So the backstory behind that, because if we understand Hooked on Phonics, now it came in a cassette tape, and for the younger audience, a cassette tape is like this small plastic thing that's like in like your Spotify with
On plastic.
plastic. Pretty much do Hooked on Phonics because I'm originally from New York and I grew up in a community, and in that community, all we spoke was Arabic. It was very interesting. Yeah, so I actually learned English at the age of 9. So when we transitioned, when we transitioned out of the community, I had a very strong accent. My accent was very strong. So my mom was like, Eric, stop speaking Arabic. Like, just don't speak it at all. So she got us the Hooked on Phonics course, and we had to learn it. And Hooked on Phonics is between the ages of 3 to 8. It's like really pre-K information. And I really couldn't get past like the 3rd course.
Wow.
It really, I hated Hooked on Phonics so much. And so at that time, we moved to Atlanta, Georgia. My mom recently married a very successful businessman.
Yeah. And
he was into motivation. You know, he had all the books and stuff at his house. So they gave me an option. They said, all right, look, you need to learn English, okay? So either you take Hooked on Phonics every single day, or you read a chapter in a book and write a book report.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay. Now, at that time, I believe I was in 6th grade or something like that when I got reading the book. I remember Success for Dummies by Zig Ziglar was one of like the first books we actually read. And it's one of those Success for Dummies series. It's a really thick book. And I didn't really know the words, so I had to have a dictionary. So as I'm reading the chapters, I'm looking up words on the dictionary because I had to write a book report or I would get my butt kicked.
Yeah.
So it was that fear of learning really how to speak English. So learning how to speak English is actually what made me into the businessman I am today. So you fast forward now, I'm 37 years old.
Yeah.
And many different information, different knowledges. And I just took that information and said, all right, well, this is kind of who I am. So I need to apply it. So I started a landscaping business when I was in middle school, and I kind of did the door-to-door in the South. We did that thing, and it just kind of grew and matriculated from there. But that was the foundation. I hated Hooked on Phonics. I mean, I sound like a motivational speaker, but literally that's how I learned English. I'm like, listen, ignore that. Just ignore the tone, ignore my words, just hear the message behind it. That's how I learned English. So that's kind of the origin story of Eric.
That is a great origin story. The birth of a businessman.
Yes.
From Hooked on Phonics.
From Hooked on Phonics, exactly.
I love that. So that basically blossomed, clearly, into you being able to develop and apply that in different ways of starting your own business. You start off doing landscaping in middle school, so you already have this entrepreneurial spirit, and now then what? What happens there? Did you go from...
So it was funny because my passion is to perform. My passion is to kind of like jump into a role, acting. I remember my senior year in high school, I had an opportunity to be a part of a play.
Yeah.
And during that time, I didn't really know what it was. I just was like, okay, this is something that I want to do. I've always been around the theater guys, and I kind of just acquired that knowledge. I remember my stepdad gave me the opportunity because I was going to go to college for business.
Okay.
But he's like, well, what is your passion? Like, what do you really enjoy doing? What do you love to do? And I said, I love to act. So I got on stage and I did that, and I was like, this is what you do.
Yeah.
So for like the beginning of my college experience, I was a speech and theater major. Wow. I did speech, I did the plays, I did the tours, and it was fun because I really was able to express myself.
Yeah.
But then after that first year of really doing what I love and doing what I thought I was into, I realized that, you know what, I don't really see the business model in this because of all the past books that I read. Because I knew success was inevitable, I didn't see the business model, I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So I decided to I told myself I was gonna drop out. So I dropped out my freshman year, and then I was like, I'm gonna be a garbage man, because they make a lot of money, and I can have enough money to use that money to invest in my next business venture, whatever it is I decide to do.
Yeah.
And it was fun because my mom was like, nah, that ain't happening. Take your butt to school.
Yeah.
Go back to school. And I was like, oh, come on, the acting thing. Let me be the entrepreneur. And I was like, no, go back to school. And it's in those moments that we feel like we're veering off in an area that we're not aware of, or we couldn't anticipate. But that one decision of, no, you're going to this school, literally set the tone for who I am as a person. And I remember we were in college, went to Clayton State University.
Nice, yeah.
And to get back to where it actually started from a business perspective, was I was cutting class, philosophy, and one of my friends was telling me about how his dad was making a lot of money in insurance. So I said, oh, this is interesting. I'm 20 years old. Why not? So I tell his dad, and I see what he did. I saw the business model. I was like, oh, this is a good business model. I like this. So then I sacrificed my spring break. I became experienced with all the books and all the knowledge that I had. I kind of just applied it, and it worked. Became the top salesman, became the corporate trainer. Then I became a partner. Then I had an opportunity to open my own office in Texas. And I'm 21 doing all this. Yeah, I'm around a whole bunch of insurance. There's a lot of older gentlemen.
Yeah.
So they're like, who is this young kid thinking he knows everything? But really, it was the fact that when I spoke, they understood that, okay, there's a knowledge base to this kid that I'm not seeing. Let's let him talk and let's apply it. And it grew to a multi-million-dollar practice just because of just all the information that was just given there.
My mind is blown.
So that's kind of what started the business journey of entrepreneurship for Eric as an adult.
As an
in
adult.
insurance.
Oh my gosh, that's a beautiful story. Just the early beginnings. It's like, you know that there's an entrepreneurial background. Like, you know, like when you're an entrepreneur, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You might not have your finger right on the pulse, but you're like, if I keep pursuing it in this way, I know it's gonna deem rewards.
Correct.
And so you stayed true to that, even with what you just shared with the Hooked on Phonics process. Like the determination and the ability to apply knowledge and then say, okay, I know I want bigger for myself. I want more for myself. And how can I then now adapt this to this journey that I want to go on to, which is entrepreneurship?
Yes.
And it's interesting to hear some of those stories because it's always that power struggle in the beginning of trying to figure out, do I go to college? Do I stay in college and just ride the wave? Because I know at the end of the day, I'm an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur minds work way different than corporate minds.
It's not in that. It's different. It's different. It can be cultivated, but it's different.
Yes. And to the point where you're like, I'm really just to be a garbage man so I can just pursue and fund my business.
Correct.
So the mindset is different. And essentially it also shows that you're willing to take risks.
Yes.
A lot of risk to the point where you're like, I'll give it all the way to be a garbage man and just fund.
Yeah, you kind of have to do that. It's one of those things where, as an entrepreneur, so to talk about the dynamics between going to school to discuss, because we're all in this age where we understand information is everywhere. We understand education is a system. We understand that the education system was created for an industrial age. We understand all that, right?
Yes.
So a lot of the kids, you know, they're seeing entrepreneurship. They're seeing businessmen. They're seeing businesswomen. They're saying, I want to do that. I want to do that. I don't want to go to school. I want to go to school. And I think that's the wrong narrative, because while entrepreneurship is a desire, it's a business model first, right? But education is a requirement.
Yeah.
Like you can't skip over that. You can't say, well, hey, you know what? I didn't go to school, so I'm better off. So I'm gonna just go ahead and pursue this entrepreneurship because I'm gonna do that. Now there are many great stories that started like that. Don't have a high school degree, don't have any education, middle school education, and they work their way up and they hustle and bust. Discuss the education that they had to learn in order to get to that position where they are. So school is one of those things where it's a foundation to teach you how to learn. So that when you figure out what it is you want to learn, you can apply that education there. So education is a requirement. So even though I dropped out and all that fun stuff, it's one of those things where I say, no, still go to school, because had I not gone to school, I wouldn't have all the opportunities that I have now.
Yeah. And the fact that you were able to identify business models because of the education.
Correct.
Because as you were telling that story, you were like, oh, they got an interesting business model. That's not the first thing a young 20-year-old is going to typically say.
Not at all. Not at all. Where's the money? I want to go where the money resides. That's normally what.
It's just amazing. Tell us a little bit more about then how you got to where you are today with ProFights and what that looks like. So what was the transition and the pivot there where you're like, okay, I have an agency. I've been able to flourish in Texas with top tier. Like you were just essentially a beast in your field. Now you're at the place where you're at now. Like, what was that pivot and that transition? Do you consider yourself a serial entrepreneur as well?
Yes. I would consider myself a serial entrepreneur. At that time, I wasn't. At that time, I was really tunnel vision in making the insurance office grow. Because at that time, we just acquired another office in Louisiana. So we were trying to expand. And during that time, it was very interesting because I kind of got into the insurance industry at a very lucky age.
Yeah.
It was like a product that was very easy to kind of sell. So it was easy to do, to duplicate it and do that. But I would say that moment was kind of one of the most, was actually very difficult for me because when we transitioned to another state and we tried to expand, we invested a lot of our money into that, and then it just went belly up. We put a lot of our chips into one basket. We just knew that this one relationship or this one opportunity would be the one thing. I remember we were counting the dollars. We were looking for things to buy. We were looking at ways to put our money up and stuff like that. We had all these great ideas and visions, and then it just ended like that.
Wow.
And I'm sitting back like, wait a minute, this isn't in the books. Like I'm reading, as a kid, I'm reading all these books, and as I'm reading the books, I'm focusing on, oh, there's a success. At the end of all these books, there's success.
Yeah.
There's success, there's success. So I've never really realized that failure was the inevitable aspect to it. So that was that time in my age where I actually failed, because everything else up until then was just, oh, it was serendipity success. And then boom, I lost it all.
Would you say has been a trauma for citizens around the globe?
Trauma walks with us through life, to things we see, to communities we live in, to experiences that we've been exposed to. So, the pandemic kind of took all that stuff that was back there that we really haven't addressed. It says, "Oh, story to tell you."
Severe weather can strike anytime, anywhere, but there's a simple way to stay safe. Hey, Jim Cantori here. I stay for your family's needs. Write down important information like phone numbers and medications. Always talk with your family, and remember any pets in your planning. Be ready, be safe. Start your plan today at ready.gov/plan.
Are you finding that people are truthful online more, or maybe not so much?
There's a lot of filters that women have. There's a lot of things that you really don't know that person until you actually meet them in person.
So in other words, you guys are being catfish.
Definitely.
So luckily I had a house in Clayton County, so I moved back home, and it was tough. I kind of got off the grid. I shut down, which a lot of us do when our businesses go bad. We kind of become a hermit.
Yeah.
And I kind of was just like, I don't know what to do. I set my identity up. This is who I was. I was traveling. I was young. I was this hot shot, I thought, and it slapped me in the face, that failure, and I was at a negative now.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, well, what am I gonna do? Because this is all I knew. So luckily, actually around that time is when the idea for Pledging for Success came about. Active in my local chapter and start being around the brothers, start getting the brotherhood. I wanted to recharge. And my fraternity brothers, they were like that recharge, because they all had this hunger.
You got to shout out your fraternities. Want to know who?
Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity
There we go.
Incorporated. There we go. I'm gonna call the mega chapter. Well, we gotta do it for the noobs. Yo, to the noobs. And the brotherhood is real there.
Yeah.
And being around those brothers, it really just felt like, wait a minute, because I've seen guys who, started off as just like quiet in school, just the everyday Joe, and then when they crossed over, they just transitioned and they just blossomed into this person. I didn't even wear a suit until I became a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. So I really embraced that, and I said, you know what? I need to lean on the shield. And then my line brother, he got me a job at Auto Trader. It's my first time jumping into corporate. And it was a very humbling experience for me, because at that time I was job searching, and I was job searching in my field, but the money that they were offering me now is like, oh my God, Eric, you should have took it. But I was like, oh, I make way more than that in this space. I can't do that. So I ended up taking a job at Auto Trader in the corporate structure, which was a lot less than what was actually offered before, because it was just something different. I just like, let me just reset. I remember riding the train back and forth to work. I had to bribe people with Taco Bell just to take me to the train station. Like, it was a real, I had to get back, and I had to pledge for the success. I had to start at ground one. And then after about a year of that corporate structure. I did the whole, had like this continuing education thing where they had all these courses.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna take all these courses free. Like, why not?
Right.
Took the Toastmasters, I did it all. And while I was doing that, I said, you know what, let me start going back to my roots. Let me start reading my books. Let me start going back. And I read this book, Success is Never Ending, Failure is Never Final, by Robert Schuller. And when I read that, I was like, that's what I remember. Success is never ending, failure is never final. Eric, you're not a failure, bro. Like, you had a setback, but it's not final. So pick something up and do it. So
Yeah.
I said, all right, you know what skill set do I have? I have sales training, I have business development training. So then I quit Auto Trader, and then I jumped into the world of entertainment and in business and marketing and advertising.
Okay.
With my
Wow.
brothers. So I kind of connected with them. Not my fraternity brothers, my family members, because
Yeah.
they're very successful in their space. Like, I mean, they're like mavericks, well known. So I was like, oh, let me jump.
Right.
I'm the little brother that's hungry. I have the information, but just let me learn.
Yeah.
And I just really just absorbed a lot of the information, a lot of the knowledge. We had a lot of major activations, and that kind of took me into where I am today, where I was able to transition into a marketing agency and business development company, and I have several apps that's on the market right now.
Nice.
So it just, I'm one of those people that when I see an opportunity, I take it.
Yep.
And it's a yes until it's a no. It's a yes until it's a no. Because as long as I act in integrity, then I will always be protected.
I love that. I love that. So this sounds like the birth of where the serial entrepreneurship
Yes.
came into place.
Yes.
And that moment where you thought you were at a failure, it's more so, no, let's just pivot our mindset and use this as a learning lesson more so than this ain't for me.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's important, because a lot of us, when you're an entrepreneur, it's hard. It's tough.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of us, like, we don't really talk about the mental health of entrepreneurship, right? It's especially when you're the entrepreneur that's like, oh, I can't have a side 9 to 5. I can't have a job. I can't do that. And it's like, no, you're looking at it wrong.
Yeah.
I remember I actually heard it on a Clubhouse, and I was talking to some lady, and she was like, my 9 to 5 is my investor. I was like, that's genius.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that is.
Yes.
Like change your mindset on how you're looking at this just drudgery of going to work, and look at it as, I have an opportunity to use this time to make some money so I can invest in my own business.
Yes.
And that's
yes.
essentially how I live my life. I'm my own VC. I'm my own angel investor. I reinvested into my business.
Right, right. I love that. In that process where you're like, okay, I'm just going to let go of the corporate world, did you ever struggle with making that determination whether I'm just going to quit outright, or am I just going to balance both corporate and try to pursue some of my entrepreneurial endeavors?
So in hindsight, I would have stayed a little longer,
Okay.
only because I now understand the value of consistent income. I understand the value of having that income coming in so you can leverage it. But at that time, I was in the books. I'm Mr. Entrepreneur. That's all I know. That's literally all I know. So I said, I'm gonna just jump out there. I'm gonna blind faith it, and I'm gonna just, every opportunity that comes my way, if it seems like something that I want to do, did the network marketing, did all these different companies, jumped on board of several companies. Hey, Eric, we need your idea, because I had the information, I had the business knowledge, I had the marketing expertise. I was
Yeah.
like, whenever you spoke, you sound like you know what you're talking about here.
We listen.
We're listening, so come on over. Let's do that. I remember during that time, I got a chance to be a restaurant owner. Yeah,
What?
So it was a restaurant that was closed across from my brother's apartment, and he was like, I should go over there and talk to him and try to do some marketing activations. And he was like, we're closed. I was like, what are you doing? This is
happened?
like
Yeah.
prime. This is Arbin Avenue. This is prime real estate.
Yeah.
So we negotiated, and I got some ownership, and I was like, let's revitalize this. Let's open this up, and it became a really popping spot. It was like, we're still trending. We were trending on Twitter. It was Tino's After Dark.
Wow.
And it was a place pretty much where a whole bunch of Georgia State students would just come, our hangout spot. So I got a chance to learn about how to run a brick and mortar from that. So a lot of my yes opportunities were actually learning lessons to get me to where I am today.
I love it. I love it. I'm trying to hug all this into one little.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Put this all, wrap it up in one little bow. But what you're saying is a powerful story in terms of like your journey, your early beginnings, the origin story, and now to the point where you're realizing what a business model looks like, what a business structure is. How do I adapt? How do I pivot? How do I take on risks? How do I accept failure and have a great mental state in place? I'm sure there are other people who are watching and they're like, everything that he's saying, I can feel, because I'm that same person as well. Like to me or to other people, I feel like they feel like I'm all over the place and I don't have a direction, I don't have a focus. For those people, how do you tell them you can do all these things great, how do you tell them to just narrow in on that focus and know as long as you got these things in order, whatever those 2-3 things that they need to feel like, okay, what you're feeling is normal. That's the power of a serial entrepreneur. How do they then understand how to navigate that power for themselves?
That's a good question. How to navigate the chaos, essentially, as an
I try
entrepreneur.
to power on. I'm trying to nice it up.
That's
but-
good. You got it. It's the chaos. It's the chaos. Honestly, there's a lot of different methods. I would say first to acknowledge it first. First acknowledge it, right? I remember I was sitting with one of my best friends, and she's a project manager. And,
shout out project
I know, right?
manager.
Project manager. And she was just talking about, Eric, just talk to me. Like, what all you have going on? And I was overwhelmed. I was stressed about something. She said, stop. Let's write everything you have going on a sheet of paper. So I said, okay, let's do that. So she said, just spit it out. I'll write it down.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. I have this also. I'm also doing this, and I'm connected to that. She was like, whoa.
Yeah.
You have way too many things going on. Why are you saying yes to all these different opportunities? I said, because, I'm good at it. It can work. She was like, no, stop. You have way too much things. How do they align? Where's the connection point?
Yeah.
She says, now, out of all these different things you have, how do you align into one thing?
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So I looked at all the companies. I was like, all right, so which one is not making me money? That
Let's
was the
start
first one.
there. Let's start there.
A lot of times we like to start with what I enjoy doing the most.
Yeah.
Let's start at the business model. Which one is an income generating activity?
Yeah.
Which I recently learned, like, what is the income generating activity as a primary? So I said, all right, let's put those at the top. At that time, it was probably 2, right? It was one in entertainment and in business for events. I had a whole bunch of events and stuff that we were doing. So very iffy on that business model. But then the rest of them was just hopes and wishes and dreams. And then some of them were just equity. Now, that's a completely different conversation because a lot of people, they offer you equity, but without company, and you're thinking, right now it's just us, so this company may not go anywhere, it's valued at this, so I can't spend that 1%. That was my mindset.
Yeah.
I can't spend that 1%, so I can't do anything with it. But if that company actually took off, that 1% could turn into millions. Right.
Easily, yeah.
So we figured out what that synergy was. Figure out the synergy. Business model first, like a kind of a tree. How can they connect?
Yeah.
Right. So then I launched. So when I figured this out, I was like, all right, I need to start with one. What is my primary? What is my bread and butter? And that's my business development and marketing company. Right.
Okay.
That's what I'm an expert in. 17 years in marketing. So Eric, that's what you do. So that's number one. That's your primary income source. Now, from there, what can you do? Well, with business development and marketing, I can kind of go in any lane.
You really can.
So then I said, all right, so what's the next step? And a lot of times in business, especially for entrepreneurs, we see something, we like it, we want to do it. We're like, I like this business model, but it's like, well, is it really good for me? Is this for me? Like, oh, somebody told me I was really good at this. Somebody said I was the best at this, but is that for me, right? So once I figured out what I couldn't do, what I didn't want to do, it would fit within my business model.
Yeah.
And that's when it just made sense. It just added. So every single one feeds into the other.
I got
So
you.
Profites feeds into my passion with my fraternity.
Yeah.
Right? It's a social network just for fraternities and sororities. Literally, all D9 members can join. Only D9 members can post. It's a network to really
I love
be, and we're
that.
going to take that and push it back into the community. Right? Just checking in. Mental health. Just check in. As a lonely entrepreneur sometimes, I need somebody to check in on me. I don't really have somebody that's like, hey, Eric, how you doing today? Hey, Eric, how you doing today? So we built an app that just checks in on you. Every day you get a notification, it just checks in.
Wow.
So it's really simple. So it's about finding what you enjoy doing, finding what works within your capability, and seeing how that fits in that tree. So you can enjoy the chaos. You can do it. You can handle it. We can handle it. It just has to coincide with what you're already doing.
Yes. Thank you for explaining that. I think a lot of people just had a big, huge sigh of relief.
I hope so.
I felt it through the cameras.
I tend to do long-winded explanations, but I hope we were able to kind of get the narrow point of that.
No, I think that was really helpful, only because you're great at a lot of different things. And I'm sure there are other people who are in my life. But now I'm getting to the point where it feels like there's a lot on my plate. I don't know what's up, but I know I feel good about being engaged in each one. I just don't know what that income value is for each one of those items. So you breaking down that structure to say, find the focus.
Every discipline starts with creating a habit. Find a plan that works for you. I know you can put a reminder in your phone, call so-and-so in 30 days. You can't use the excuse that, oh, I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert, you know, stuff people like to say. Nah, if you're not outgoing, right, you better get going, because that's the only way networking works.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. Remember the best planned 90 minutes of your life? Or that surprise party for your parents' golden anniversary? You get the golden planning. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency.
Welcome to this week's edition of Single in the City. I am Justin Gilbert.
Maturity comes in, and a lot of people negate that part of being an adult and dating and being single in the city.
What is the biggest favor, or craziest thing you've done?
You know, we get the meat, the potatoes, but the boundaries can be the vegetables. You know, you gotta have them. You know, you gotta eat them.
We will see you next week for another episode of Single in the City.
If you didn't know, then I got to tell you, you're my lucky strike.
Income generating activity first.
Yeah.
And that could be the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of times that's the job. So a lot of times we put the job at the bottom. I'm trying to get rid of this.
Yeah.
So my dream is this. My job is down here. No. The job needs to go at the top.
Yeah.
Because that's the income generating activity.
Yeah.
And then you work your way from there, because everything else is just a hobby.
Yes.
And it's good to do hobbies. It's fun. It's cathartic. But if you're trying to build wealth, you're trying to really amass some kind of legacy, you need income to do that.
Yes. I feel like there's so much more clarity for a lot of people. In entrepreneurship, there's chaos. I'm going to say power.
The chaos, there's chaos. There's power and chaos. Let's combine it.
And just trying to figure out how to navigate those waters. But let's talk more about this before we wrap up here. Pledging for Success. We alluded to it earlier.
Yes.
How the birth of this book began.
Yes.
Just trying to figure out what that business model was and structure was for yourself. Can you speak more about this and how people can actually find this?
Yes. You can actually purchase it at ericleeusher.com. And what I love about this book was it almost was like a Bible to myself. It was like, hey, Eric, failure is going to happen because failure is inevitable.
Yeah.
But when it happens, read your book, read your words, and remember exactly what you put in there. So the book really talks about, I took the pledge process, so to speak, and I applied. So a lot of D9 will relate to it on another level, but anybody can apply it because I talk about what you need in order to even start on the journey to success. So I say probably one of the most powerful things about this book is kind of like the first 2 chapters. Because a lot of times we have dreams, we have hopes, we have this desire, right?
Yeah.
But we're not given the tools in the community to actually apply those. And that's kind of one of the biggest things. So, I mean, I was forced into those tools because that's how I learned English.
Yeah.
But so to me, it's like a default. I don't even know anything else.
Yeah.
But on the journey, I realized that a lot of people just are not given the tools. So I always say, listen, it's not your fault. It's your tools. It's not your fault. Like, don't when you fail, when you hit that roadblock, when you stumble, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. It's your tools. And the best analogy that I like to use is like someone climbing a mountain.
Okay.
Right? When you want to get to the top of the mountain, you have to first see it first. You have to no, well, let me start here. You have to first know a mountain is there.
Okay.
And in our community, that there's a mountain that we should even climb. Mm-hmm. So it starts with awareness. So this, like, boss up, this is the mountain. You're showing people, hey guys, hey girls, there's a mountain here. you can actually climb this mountain. But now that you know there's a mountain here, now you can get to the top. Oh, I can actually climb it. Now that I know a mountain's there, I can actually climb to the top?
Yeah.
Yes. You can boss up and you can climb to the top of this mountain. Okay, great. But what a lot of us do is we see the mountain, we're told we can climb the mountain, so we just start climbing. Now, unless you're Mission Impossible Tom Cruise and you're a pool shark, I don't know how you're gonna get to the top of that mountain.
I don't either.
Without the tools. Now, everybody that knows about mountain climbing, you need some rope. We know that much.
Yes.
There's tools that's required in order to get to the top. And no matter how hard, you could be at the top, you can meditate your way, you can pray your way. You're not getting to the top if you don't have those tools.
Yeah.
So the foundation to anything, starting business, passion, you have to have the right tools. So first accept that, you know what? I wasn't given the right tools. I didn't have the right tools. So accept that first. I didn't have the right tools, so it's not my fault. But now that I can acknowledge that, what am I gonna do next?
Yes.
So there's 5 basic tools that I kind of came up with that actually has been written in many books. The information is out there, we just gotta go get it. And I'm gonna just go over real quickly. The first tool that you need in that toolbox to start climbing that mountain, and that's number 1, you have to have an open heart and an open mind. Without an open heart and an open mind, you would say yes. I wouldn't have said yes to all these different opportunities that I've gained so much different knowledge on. So now when I talk to my clients, I can say, oh, I've had that business model before. This is what I recommend. Because I had an open, I was like, oh, that's not me, I don't do that. I don't do that, that's above me. No, that's not having an open heart and an open mind. Have an open heart and an open mind, and opportunities would just come in.
Yes.
Number 2, oh, please do number 2, the research. You have to do the research. Like, how can you expect to do anything in life if you don't know? Like, if you don't have the directions to where you're going, you're just getting lost. Do the research. Yeah. Take the time. Do the research. And I know it sucks, but we have so much information out there. Do the research. If you say, I'm interested in this, talk to somebody in that space. Like, really become a student of that craft, because you may realize, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. It's not something, I don't like this business model.
And then you've invested so much that you feel indebted to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Number 3, the most important one, drop your ego. We have to drop our ego. And I mean, it's so hard because it's a persona that we created.
Yes.
Our ego protects us. Our ego is that shield that says, no, you're going against what idea that I created. You're going against the idea that I created for myself.
Yeah.
So I don't like that, so I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
And you just shut off everything because you're being egoic. You're letting your ego dictate the conversation when that's not who you are. Your ego is not who you are. Your ego is the persona that you created to defend yourself from this crazy world, right? Number 4, learn to cooperate. Come on, y'all. Everybody that's been successful, like, you can't do it on your own. It's all this, oh, I did it by myself. I got out the mud, I grinded by myself. Ain't nobody helped me. Stop. Somebody helped you. Somebody, you slept on that couch, you got that ride, you thinking it's your birthday, but that was the only meal for your day because it was your birthday. You may wait for your birthday just to eat. That person helped, so you have to learn to cooperate. You can't be that solo person on a beach saying, I'm gonna build a boat to get off. There's like 5 people on the beach in their own little corner saying, I'm gonna build a boat, I'm gonna show you guys, I'm gonna get off this island. Like, hey guys, if we all just come together, we can actually get off this island faster.
Faster. Together. Yes.
Learn to cooperate. It's inevitable you're gonna run into people, so be nice to everybody. Be nice to everybody because you never know who you're gonna pass. That thing is real.
Yes.
You never know, like, there's been many people that I'm like, oh, hey, how are you doing? I remember you. And just because of that good experience, it was like, whatever you need, whatever I can do.
Yes.
And 5, which is very hard, is have fun.
Okay, that's a good one.
You have to have fun.
That's
and
a good one.
It's a very hard one to do because when you're struggling, when your stomach is growling, when you're sleeping in the car, when you're trying to figure out, what's next, when everything is just against you, you're like, how is this fun? Where in this is fun?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to have that ability to find the joy in the chaos. Because if you understand that it's inevitable, then you're looking at it like, oh, I'm supposed to go through this. This is a part of the journey that I'm supposed to go through. So let me accept this. So let me find the positive in that. And just by doing that one thing, you're like, ooh, there's a light. Now you can at least see where the light is.
Yes.
So those are the 5 tools that I say you need in your toolbox to start anything. With those 5 tools, I mean, you'll be in good hands.
Gems on gems on gems.
Dropping bars.
I mean, seriously. That was awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I think that's going to get us through the rest of this year for sure and prepare our minds for the following year in terms of like how we plan out those mountains and those goals.
I hope so. Hey, we all have a mountain. We all just got to climb it.
I love it. Eric, this has been amazing. I told you guys, if you didn't have your pen and paper ready for when he dropped those 5 gems and you trying to scramble for like a pen.
Oh, it's in the book. You can get it in the book.
It's in the book.
Yeah, you can get it in the book.
So be sure to check that out. But absolutely amazing. Thank you guys for watching. And we look forward for you guys to hang out with us for the next